What's poppin', my freeform renegades? You are tuned into the Freeform Network. Thanks for joining us for another fun episode of Freeform Radio. I'm your host, Noel, with my co host, Daniel.
Yes, sir. A little off today, but man, we're gonna power through this bad boy and get this podcast knocked out.
Oh, for sure. And we got Andy.
It's all good, Andy. I'm glad we're all together and ready to talk your ears off.
Well, it's another nice day here in Chicago. We actually have some really nice weather this weekend. But wherever you listeners are, we hope you're sitting feeling good, relaxed, and ready to go. And we're going to hop right into this with Daniel. Looks like you had a company zoo trip. Can you fill us in on what happened?
Yeah, man. Our company had their annual end of summer um, get together, and this year it was at the Brookfield Zoo. So the company ends up paying for our tickets, and they have some kind of food. Sometimes they have like giveaways, like shirts, swag. Sometimes even bigger gifts, depending on what it is. One year we went to just the park in the local area from our company, and they had like these big gifts that they were giving out. They were giving out like electronics. They were giving out like Yeti cups and like some bigger gifts, Sox tickets, Cubs tickets, and stuff like that. So this year it was at Brookfield Zoo, which was good because I hadn't been to the Brookfield Zoo in quite a while. When Junior was young, we would go all the time. We lived close to the area, a few minutes away, and it was the kind of thing that we almost got a membership like every year while he was young. And he really had a blast when he was younger, and even at this age, since it had been a while since we've been to there, he was excited as well as my wife and me, and man, it was a good time. It was a little on the warmish side, so it was a little bit of sweating going on, but it was still a good time, and it was good, man. I'm really glad the company picks different things to kind of keep it varied and it doesn't become kind of stale. And I mean, company doesn't even need to do it at all. So, I'm grateful that we got to do something at least.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Do you feel? Yeah, I think we weren't unable to go. We had some people in my family sick, but I know my wife was like really excited because she wanted to take the baby to the zoo. Um, yeah, I mean, I forgot we were looking at the. I don't know if it's a subscription or they call it a membership, right?
Right.
And usually that's I think the last time we looked at it was kind of pricey. I don't remember. You remember what you guys paid back in the day?
I want to say it was like 120 for a family,
Yeah,
something
it's
like
definitely
that.
more than that. Yeah,
Yeah, it was over $100, but I want to say it was like under 200 for sure is what I recall. And yeah, I gave you free parking, free admission, and really nothing much above that. Um, but it was always good, man. They when we had the membership, we would buy this like cup, this plastic cup that they would sell you, and where all you would pay is like $1 for drinks or something. So you would pay $30 for this plastic container, and then you would just bring it with you to the zoo, and you just pay $1, and you get free refills for anything. And yeah, man, the Brookfield Zoo is a really nice zoo. I gotta say, this time that we just went, if we had paid, I might have been a little upset just because there was a lot of construction, a lot of exhibits that were closed down. Due to the weather, this is closed. Due to the construction, this is closed. And there was a lot of stuff that I was looking forward to. Like I really enjoy the gorilla exhibit, and all that stuff was closed down. It wasn't open.
oh yeah,
And yeah, there was quite a few things like that. It looks like they're expanding and they're adding new exhibits and kind of modernizing it. So I'm sure in a couple years, once all this construction's done, it's going to be a lot nicer. But definitely, if I had to pay the full price, which I gotta say, like tickets are probably like $20 or something, I would probably leave a little upset that most of the stuff was closed. But no, good time, anyways. Um, The other thing that's it's been up with me is football is finally starting, man. It's really exciting to get the football season going and to just get excited about the Bears starting up. Today's, as of this recording, today's their first official game going against Green Bay. So that's gonna be a nice test to see where they're at. But to get me ramped up for that, I've been watching a couple TV shows that kind of coincide with football. The first one being in Netflix. They had a little like mini doc series called Quarterbacks. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw that. And the other one was on Hard Knocks on HBO Max. And yeah, man, both were really good. I really enjoyed them. Did either of you guys hear about them or even check these out?
I haven't heard of quarterbacks of Hard Knocks. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never really watched regularly. And with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets this year, I'm like, eh. Someone sent me a clip at the end where Aaron Rodgers is making some comments about stuff that he thought he saw or something. So that was kind of weird. But yeah, I've never watched Hard Knocks regularly.
I know you're not much into football, Noel, but did you even peruse this at all?
No, man, I have. It wasn't even on my radar, to be honest.
Yeah, I
But
mean these are good shows. In particular, quarterbacks. I thought was a good show for people that are kind of like semi interested in football, but don't really know if they like it because they show a lot of the background stuff. They show a lot of the families. They show a lot of the training. They show a lot of the just the daily mental grind, a lot of the dietitian, eating, nutrition, a bunch of stuff that really all coincides into the game on Sunday. So really good. Quarterbacks follows three quarterbacks, one of them being Mahomes, the other one being Kirk Cousin, and the other one being oh man, I forget his name now, but he was the head coach or the head quarterback at Atlanta, and then he went to the Raiders for a minute, and he's bounced around. It's a Hawaiian guy,
Mariota.
Mariota, and he's a good quarterback. To me, I kind of see him kind of as serviceable, kind of like that Rex Grossman kind of quarterback. Like that Kyle Orton quarterback, where this guy might not make it to a Super Bowl, but he's gonna hopefully not lose the game for you. And I know Andy, you think Kirk Cousins in that camp, but I think Cousins got a little bit of the it factor, and I think he's a good quarterback. But anyways, of the three quarterbacks, you definitely see Mahomes go into the stratosphere. He's an awesome quarterback, and then you see kind of like a midline Cousins, and then you see a kind of struggling Mariota. So
Do,
really good.
do you think Cousin is just a good game manager? I don't see him winning a Super Bowl, and he's had weapons in Minnesota recently, and most of them are like just out of there. Not two out of the three. Thielen and Cook are gone. They still got the good receiver, but he at most is he's. I don't think he's gonna cost you the game, but he might win you a game in here and there, but he's not gonna take you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we have the Bears is a 3 o'clock game, so I was looking at the schedule before we started recording, and the 12 o'clock game, Minnesota's is up. So I'm definitely planning to tune in, especially because I watched the quarterbacks thing on Netflix. I want to see how Kirk Cousins does. I agree with you, Andy. I think he had a lot of weapons last year. This year, it's a little trimmed back. I don't really see them taking a positive step forward. So I think this is going to be a little more trying times for Cousins. But I disagree. I think he's a good, not great quarterback. And I think he's above average. So I think definitely if you put enough weapons around him, I think he's definitely that kind of quarterback that could sneak you into the Super Bowl and possibly get you a win. But Mahomes, man, it was good seeing the side of him as far as dealing with the injury to win the Super Bowl. Spoilers for any of you guys that didn't see the Super Bowl last year, but yeah, he won, and him dealing with that. So it was kind of cool, man. And like I mentioned, it shows a lot of the background stuff. So it shows like Mahomes shopping for a house, kind of going through his mindset. I don't know how much of this is like PR, like your publicist is
Fake.
telling them, yeah, like, hey, don't say that, don't say this, talk it up like this, kind of thing. Might be, but if you kind of take it as far as it's genuine, it was a really good behind the
Well,
scenes of the three quarterbacks.
talking about stuff being fake, did you see the commercial for the NFL where like Justin Fields and all these guys and Mahomes is like in a Zoom call talking about the script for the year,
Right, right,
right? Because the last couple of years everybody's like the NFL's rigged and like TV and all this is like to me. I used to think it was like authentic and like natural, and like now I'm like an old wrestler. I just think everything's a work, or they show you stuff that they want you to know to get personalized or whatever with the person or the athlete, like to be like, oh man, they're just like me, they just want to be home and chilling and shit like that, or having dinner with the family. I think a lot of it's just like not authentic. I think it's just to make them personable and like get them to buy stuff that they endorse. And we'll see. Like the thing for the game, the first game of the week with the Chiefs in Detroit this past Thursday. From this recording,
right.
there was already people saying like it's rigged, and so there was a lot of stuff already that came out. And but yeah, the commercial with the script that the NFL had kind of like raised an eyebrow with me, like, huh. So I know they're like monitoring all this stuff on social media and YouTube and all that.
Right, right. Speaking of the Lions and the Chiefs, man, why don't you let everybody know in our group who's the one that called the Lions, man?
I think that was not you.
Yeah, yeah, it was me, man, for sure.
But they got
Li-
lucky, man. The refs were in on that one too. It was fixed,
the
man.
the Lions are going to be contenders this year, and actually, I've seen more than one breakdown of the NFC Central where they have Lions, then they got Green Bay, Minnesota, and the Bears at the end. So yeah, I don't agree with the Bears at the end kind of thing. I kind of think the Bears are going to be in the middle of the pack, either second or third. I think they're taking to take a step forward this year, and I think as well the Lions are going to take a step forward. Minnesota will probably take a step back, as well as Green Bay take a step back. So the middle of the pack is going to be where the action's at, and whoever comes out victorious of the division, that's going to be a surprise, depending on
Dude,
who takes enough of a step forward.
going back to that Thursday night game, you know how Matt Nagy is now supposedly the offensive
Right?
coordinator,
He's
and I
calling the
saw him
plays.
doing some stupid shit like they're on the 1 yard line. He got some flipping the ball 3 times in the back of the line and shit. I'm like, dude, just do I and fucking pound it in there. But like, and of course, some stupidity happened. Um, Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. And going back to the NFC North, yeah, I mean everybody's on this Detroit bandwagon, dude. It's fucking Detroit. Like they're gonna fuck it up. They always do. I think they've only won one playoff game since like the '90s or the '50s or some shit. It's something ridiculous. Um, it's Detroit, dude. I mean everybody's loving them, but I have a feeling everybody's on that bandwagon. The NFC North's a mess. I mean, the Packers, who knows? It might be Minnesota, but the Bears, they'll be, I think, in the hunt. It all depends on if the O line can protect Fields and nobody gets hurt. Like, because that O line, I think, is still suspect, and the defense is. Who knows, man? The defense has a lot of red flags. The secondary's good. That line, the defensive line, that is suspect at best right now.
but yeah, it's excited for football, and then really quick for Hard Knocks. Like you alluded, Andy, it followed the New York Jets during their training camp in the preseason, and it was really interesting just because obviously the a lot of it was behind Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, then picking up Minnesota's running back and just a few other like rookies fighting for spots. It was really well put together. I really enjoyed it. Usually Hard Knocks is pretty good, and this was even more exciting because I wanted to see how Aaron Rodgers would fit in. And the only thing that kind of gave me that like fake vibe is that he was really really friendly, and I've known Rogers because he's in the Central here with us. So I've known him and seen him, and he doesn't look super friendly. He looks friendly like when things are going well, but when the shit's hitting the fan and players are dropping passes and he's not getting his way, I've seen that, asshole Rogers. So I don't know how much of it was kind of act up for the TV show.
I don't think the coach they have now, that Salah guy, he's no nonsense. He's pretty tough in like the discipline. I don't think he's gonna tolerate all that shit from him. But if they start winning, who knows if what would happen? But yeah, Rogers, we seen him get into it with LaFleur, where he treats him like crap and say stuff after the press conference and say stuff about upper management and with the Packers. Who knows if he'll do that with the Jets because it's the first year. It's all lovey dovey. They got him a contract, but we'll see how long it lasts once they start losing.
Yeah, I agree. I think when they hit some tough times, you're going to see the real Aaron Rodgers, which I'm not even complaining. To be honest, I'm a Bears fan, but I would have taken Aaron Rodgers if he wanted to come over to the Bears and get like 2 or 3 good years out of him, develop Fields or find another prospect and kind of develop him. But yeah, man, Aaron Rodgers is an awesome quarterback. It just sucks that he was with Green Bay and you just had to root against him. But now he's in a different team. I still kind of don't like him much, but at least I could watch the Jets and be like, okay, let's see what you got, kind of thing, and
Right.
not feel guilty for rooting on him. But yeah, man, a lot of exciting football. It's finally starting the season. Changed my flag in front of the house. Usually I have the White Sox flag kind of flying there, but switched it up for the Bears one. Got the Bears one flying today, and we'll see later on this afternoon how they do. But speaking of the White Sox, Andy, fill us in on your disappointment. It was a disappointing season, so let me know your thoughts on it, man. How do you read this year?
Man, it's brutal. It's one of the worst years in, I think, in like disappointment. We've been disappointed, but this year has been pretty rough because last year, the last couple of years, there's been a couple playoff runs, and they didn't do not well. And this year is just it's a complete loss. I think disappointment in players. The Sox traded people. They fired the GM and the vice president, Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, because a lot of this was their guys, and it's just rough, man. I mean, you watch the White Sox in like baseball. You see the Cubs kind of turned around in the second half of the season, but this year with the Sox, there was so much potential, and right off the gate, they came out stumbling. And the usual stuff. Well, wait till May, wait till June when the weather warms up, and they just never. They had like a run there for like a week or two, and then after that, it was a complete fucking meltdown. And I think that the decision was finally made to get the right decision to fire Hahn and Kenny Williams, and I would have fired Grifol too because that guy sucks. And early on, you were hearing stuff about Tim Anderson, his off the field stuff, and it kind of bled into the locker room, and there was a lot of animosity, a lot of infighting, and it looks like Tim Anderson runs that locker room. Well, not runs, but he's very vocal, and then he hasn't really done much this year except be hurt, and people are blaming what happened off the field with because he has this image of like family man and all this, but they came out that he has a girlfriend, and I think from what I understand, allegedly she got pregnant with his kid, and that all just came onto the field. He's like, I don't want to talk about it, and like the pitching sucked, the hitting sucks, people ain't running out, ground outs, Grafal. people, when some of the guys got traded, they were complaining that he doesn't. People are missing meetings. People are coming late. Grafal doesn't straighten tells nobody anything. Doesn't tell them like you need to be on time. Doesn't yell at anybody. Doesn't discipline them, and like all this stuff. It's just like a fucking shit show, man. And I feel they just hired the wrong guy from day one. When they hired this guy, I was like, this guy's not it for it. And people were like, oh, he's ready to be a manager, and obviously he's learning on the job. But it's just been a complete disaster. And we'll see what happens, man, because they're just brutal. They haven't done anything since even after the All Star game, the nothing. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. A lot of people feel that. A lot of the fans, the blogs I follow, they have the same feelings. And I mean, I got offered White Sox tickets numerous times. I'm like, I don't even want to go. to be honest with you, because yeah, it's like the commute, then getting out there to see them lose and like not even hustle. And even if they have like young kids or like up in like people in second, third year in the league, I don't want to see that. Like they don't even have that. They got older veteran players, and like it's just been a big disappointment.
Yeah, I think once they start offloading some of the better players, you kind of got the sense that this was going to be a rebuilding year, and maybe even next year is going to be a rebuilding year where they kind of try out some of these young prospects. So yeah, man, I kind of foresee a few tough years ahead, and it is disappointing, man, because the Sox were going in the right direction. I felt, they were getting hot. They were getting really good seasons put together. Great nucleus of players, coaching. Whether you like to say it or not, Larusso was doing things that were
Hey,
looking promising, and now they picked him up as an advisor. So there's a lot of people like, well, is it going to be another Larusso esque era? And I kind of see it as a good thing, man. Let the
and
guy come back. I know he's sick, and you
the
know,
Sox murdered that Larusa, man. Those pictures of
man,
it down in St. Louis, I'm like,
he
damn.
looks super super old, but I mean he is old. He is old, and I know he left because of health issues. So God knows what he's really dealing with. But I think he's a good baseball mind. He's a little old school, and I'm sure they're looking for whatever help to kind of rebuild. I think they did the right thing and let go of some of the higher ups, some of the guys that build a lot of the stuff down below. So, I mean, the players could only do so much. If management sucks, then it's gonna affect your players. So, I'm glad if they are going to be rebuilding and getting rid of a lot of their players, big contracts to kind of free up money. I'm glad they trimmed some off the top as well, so that
Yeah.
hopefully they could rebuild a little stronger the years to come.
And the thing with LaRussa, the way it went down, people were criticizing him because he was a little bit more. Well, I granted to say, I think his time was up. He made some errors. I mean, stuff was coming out. It looks like he was sleeping, and then he was calling people. Well, he wasn't making the right calls, but he did. There was issues in the locker room too, and people were saying, he's an old timer, and these are young kids, and all this. There was some of that going on, but I'll tell you this: you didn't hear no reports of people missing meetings and coming in late and all this nonsense when the Russo is around. Grafal just it's a fucking mess, dude, and like people are just talking a lot of mess and like getting hear reports like that when LaRusso was here for those couple of years. I just heard that he was old, and then I think he got allegedly got a couple DUIs, if I remember. And he was good friends with Reinsdorf, and we'll see what happens, man. And it is the Sox got a lot of work coming up in the off season. I wonder if they're gonna gut this thing or they're gonna try to somewhat reload. But I think it's gonna be another like 5 6 years of just rough baseball, man, within the South Side. And then the reports of them trying to leave or allegedly or go to another state or go to Arlington Heights or go to Soldier Field. That was like the worst time for all this shit to happen. and that did not endear. The fans got pretty upset about that too, because I didn't know this, but the deal with the stadium or the lease ends like in 3 years or something. Did you know that at guaranteed rate? The lease with the state ends with them.
That's good, man. It shows that they're thinking of the future, because unlike the Bears, which their contract goes for like another 10 years, they're talking about leaving town already. But then you would have to pay the amount if you do skip out early. Or maybe the Bears are doing it correct as well, because they're also talking about building a whole new stadium, not just moving, but building a new stadium. And you do need time for that. You're not going to build it in a year or two. But yeah, man, it's kind of crazy to think, some big teams here in Chicago thinking about leaving, or at least moving to a different location.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I heard Soldier Field, I was kind of like, what? Like that didn't make sense. So the Bears, with their whole issue with the stadium and their new issues with the county, with the taxes and stuff, and they're listening to other places. I think it's just a bargaining chip. I don't see them making that type of investment and then just fucking leaving. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Sox got their work cut out for them. They pissed off a lot of longtime fans. They've been doing that since forever, even after we won the World Series. Uh, they got their work cut out for them, and we're gonna see what they do because they got Chris Getz as the new GM, and I don't know if that's the right guy either, man. I mean, he wasn't that great as a baseball player either. So, uh, let us know what you guys think at ffnquestions@gmail.com. But yeah, I'm gonna just transition a little bit here and more local stuff. I didn't know this, but here in Chicagoland, there's a grocery store called Marianos for those people that live outside of Chicago and other states. It's like a local thing. That started by this family, and they partnered up with some of the families. There used to be another huge store called Dominic's, and then there's another store locally here in Chicago that was huge. It was the big three or the big two Chicago, Dominic's and Jewel. Jewel got bought out by Albertsons a long time ago. Dominic's nobody built. I think they merged with Safeway or something, and then they just shut it all down. And then what came off of that, the family partnered up with this other guy, a family friend, and they created Marianos. And they they uh they partnered up with Kroger, which is like huge everywhere else in this country. Apparently, like we never heard of them up here. And all we knew about them was the food for less, and they weren't really that great. I mean, I think there was one in Melrose Park before I left. I don't even know if it's still there, if anybody knows. But the other
The
thing,
Food for Less?
yeah, the one on
Yeah,
North,
it's on 25th and
yeah,
North.
uh-huh,
Yeah, it's still there by the Hooters.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
Hooters
still
still
there.
there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, Kroger bought into the Marianos early on, and then apparently they bought the whole thing in 2015. So what I guess everybody's panties in a bunch is Mariano sold out to the Kroger people, which own the Food for Less. Apparently, that brand Kroger's merged, or they're combining all their stuff into with Albertsons, which owns the Jewels. So that means what's going to happen to the Marianos, because the Kroger people said they're going to sell off the 15 stores they have here in Chicagoland, and nobody knows what's going to happen with them. And then word came out that they might come out, some southern food chain. I can't remember the name. I think they own Piggly Wiggly or something. That they're going to take over all that. So the Marianos. I mean, I love Marianos. I don't know when's the last time you guys been to it. Every time I go, I'm impressed. They got a guy in the piano, gelato stand, the fresh bakery. You're cooking steaks and make pizzas and all this shit. It was like very high end. They might not be around, or they're gonna change their name. And like to me, and Mariano's, I thought it was gonna be something that was gonna stick around for a long time. But it looks like that's not gonna happen after I think it started in the early 2000s, so maybe that 20 plus years. I don't think it's gonna make it to 30. I don't know when's the last time you guys been to Marianos. Any thoughts on other like local, like the big corporations taking over local shit, and then like when they merge, this is what stuff that happens to uh, local stores or products. I mean, they just like toss them off to the side.
Yeah, to me, I think this is kind of the when you have these higher end grocery stores, because that's what I consider Mariano's. I consider it more like a higher end place. I'm just being honest. When
Higher
you
than Trader Joe's
it's like in
or
that
Whole Foods.
category. It's in that category of Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and by all means, it's necessary because it needs to serve a certain percentage of people, the 1%, let's say. But
Damn.
but the rest of 99% of us, we want as cheap as food. We don't give a shit if they pump it full of steroids. We don't care if they got preservatives up the ass. We just want it to be the cheapest thing that you could possibly find.
Wow.
And unfortunately, Mariano's isn't really that store. Dominic's wasn't that store. Stuff like that. These bigger stores, they're just not that. The only thing that kind of confuses me is I know Food for Less is that less expensive food category. And when they merged and they got that Kroger stuff going, and then Mariano came into the fold, I thought that that was going to kind of help the whole situation. But no, man, it looks like there's still problems. I don't know if they want to leave while they can because Walmart's taking a bigger foothold as far as groceries go. I mean, you see them everywhere now. Every time a Walmart opens up or goes through some kind of renovations, they're expanding the food area of it and lessening some of the electronics and other stuff that's not really necessary. And you could accommodate those through online servers. But the food thing, that's the big part. So I don't know, man. It's kind of sad to see companies struggle. I don't know if it's the economy or what it is. I have a few Marianos out here because where I live now, there are quite a few Marianos to where I used to live. There was only one that was really close by.
Yeah. They
So
expanded more out in the northwest suburbs. There's a handful of them like within the Chicago area. But the first one, I mean, that I recall was that Elmhurst one. And like when I first started going, I was like, wow, like this is like you said,
it's nice. It's
it's an
nice,
experience because
right?
you walk in, they got the juice thing, the gelato, and then they got like that whole food section, pizzas and sandwiches, and the Chicago mixed popcorn and the bakery. And then you go to the butcher area, and then they actually give you cuts of steak and they grill them there for you. And then you go do your shopping, and then it was a great experience. It was a little pricey, but like I said, it was a Chicago thing. You didn't see those outside of here. And then when they merged or they sold out a piece to Kroger, and then I didn't know Kroger bought them out in 2015. I was kind of shocked when I read that. And then now with this whole, like I said, merger, they're kind of just like left in the wind, and then they're like, we don't know what to do with them. Like, oh, you guys, they're like, somebody in Chicago want them. Yeah, here they are by these stores, and someone sounds like someone from the South bought them, and but they don't know if they're gonna keep the name or if they're gonna change the. They're gonna just let them do their own thing, and it was a very Chicago thing, and it looks like I think it's not gonna make it. And I was reading the founder of Mariano's, the guy, he already started another chain of stores, Dom's. It's an ode to the old Dominic, the original family of Dominic's, Dominic's or Dom's food and like meats or something. It's like this niche thing that you're talking about, then where like it's premium, and he's gonna continue that, and he seems to be doing very well with that. So I guess the reason I bring it up, it will impact a lot of people here locally in Chicagoland, where we're at, and uh, like I get it. Danny's like, oh, just looking for the best price, and a lot of people do that. Especially in this economic situation, economy that we're in. But there's still people who prefer quality, and
Right.
I feel Mariano's did offer that. Like you go to Whole Foods, like I've been to Whole Foods like a handful of times, and that is fucking expensive, even for me. Um, I think one time we got a gift card of like $20, and we went, and I was just like, oh, let's get a nice steak, a premium organic fucking ribeye steak. It was like $25 a pound. Like, it's barely gonna pay for half a fucking steak.
And trust me, it's worth it. You should invest in your health and you should eat well, healthy, organic, all that good stuff. But when people are on a tight budget, sometimes those are out of reach or their priorities on where they want to spend their money is kind of goofed up. And yeah, uh, usually what you eat is the thing that gets sacrificed.
Danny would buy expired meats if it saved them $2.
Heck yeah, man. Hit that clearance rack.
Hey man, you just throw a little extra salt, you'll be all right. Let us know what you guys think on that. I mean, where do you shop? Does it impact you? Do you care? At ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let's go over to Noel. I see he watched when I read this, the last voyage of Demeter.
Yeah, everyone pronounces it differently. Demeter, Demeter, whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, this must be some school thing." I thought it was the Voyage of the Mimi, but no. Well, what's it about, man? Let me know. I see it's a reboot. What's this on, and what is it about?
so it's a movie was released in theaters and actually just came out, I think, streaming as well recently. It'll probably be coming out in 4K in maybe a couple months or so. But it's a horror movie, a reboot of Nosferatu. It's one of the like the classic, Universal monsters like the Frankenstein's, Dracula's, all that. This is essentially a Dracula movie, set in 1897, and it's the title voyage of the last voyage of Demeter, Demeter, whatever you want to call it, is this ship called the Demeter, Demeter, whatever, and they're going to England, and on this voyage that they're going, they leave Romania and they leave with this like crate that has like some stuff in it, and they don't know what's in it. It's obviously hush hush, but essentially it's Dracula. And on the voyage there Dracula, like his whole plan was to go on this ship, go to England, and find a new food source. And so on this whole voyage, he's just kind of recouping his strength, and I don't want to spoil it, but like it's pretty obvious what's gonna happen. So Dracula's gonna just wreck the entire fucking crew of the boat, and it's just a survival movie. So if you've seen The Thing, if you've seen Alien, and you like those kind of movies where you're isolated and you're facing some like otherworldly monster, I mean, this movie's for you.
Yeah, I see it's kind of struggling on Rotten Tomatoes, but at least by the critics, but the audience doesn't think it's that bad. They got a 75 with the audience and a 49 with critics.
Yeah, it's a shame, man. It's a shame that horror movies, like, they're not more beloved by like the vast majority of people. The majority of people, they're into the rom-coms and the dramas and all that. To me, that's boring. All that stuff is boring. But some of the reviews on this one, ironically, were saying that this was boring and that it was because the moments that were filled with drama, I guess, weren't interesting enough to the people that were watching, some of the critics that were watching it, and they wanted more of the horror, which you get it both of, a lot of. But there is, some slow moments, and then there's moments where there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of action, and obviously it's more of a survival thing. There's not like it's not an action movie, so that could also be another reason why people maybe might not have liked it as much. Plus, these kind of movies don't get so much like marketing and stuff. Unfortunately, the budget I think was around under $50 million, um, and it didn't gross that much either. I think it made back maybe like half that. It was like 20 million they made. So man, it's
Yeah,
unfortunate because uh
Yeah, this Nosferatu. I didn't know what you were talking about, but I just Googled it, and yeah, I remember this movie. I don't recall seeing it or knowing a lot of detail in it, but it's definitely a classic. Like when you think about vampire movies, this is one of the ones that pops up in your like top 10 classic movies or whatever. But yeah, I hadn't seen anything about this last voyage. I kind of do recall seeing that uh the poster that they have on a few of my like YouTube feeds, but I've never clicked on it and never even seen it yet.
Yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes, man. There was just not much like a push for marketing, and I had a feeling, horror movies don't get that much recognition, and it is what it is. I enjoy them, but I realize not everybody does, and everybody's got their own thing that they're into, and that's perfectly fine. So, unfortunately, yeah, it didn't get that much recognition. I think it's got like maybe a 5 or 6 out of 10 on IMDb. I would rate this one. This is like a 7.5, and that's like an easy number to like. That's what popped in my head immediately because it's not perfect, but it's very entertaining. If you love Dracula and you like Nosferatu, and if you've seen the 1922 or the 1979 or any of the other Dracula movies, the Hammer ones or Bram Stoker's, whatever, whichever one that you're into, you're gonna like this one. This one's actually more of the monstrous version of Dracula and a little bit less of that bougie, rich, like like a fancy boy Dracula.
What's the movie where it's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt?
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah. So my wife was watching it like a month ago, and then she found out. Did you know they made a TV show about that?
Yes, I have
And
not
then
seen it,
she
but I
had
heard.
her comments about it. She actually stopped watching it after one episode. So
Oh man.
I wanted to know what your thoughts on it. I mean, I'm not gonna. She just like I. The first one was like kind of androgynous, like these good-looking vampires and all the sexual innuendo and stuff. And this one's just like it's just a bit too much for me. And she stopped watching it like halfway through episode one or something. And I was just wondering, like, we're talking about not Nurse Fatu here, and I'm like, I bet you no one knows about the interview with a vampire. And like, I was wondering if you knew about. That's kind of going into your comments, earlier about the rich bourgeois stuff.
Yeah, so I've seen that one, the movie. I haven't seen the show, but yeah, everyone has their own Dracula that they like, are drawn to. I was more drawn to the vampires that are more animalistic and more like a monster, right? And less sophisticated. But I get that some people like the Twilight sparkling whatever fancy boy attitude, but that just was never what I was drawn to. So this one, like Nosferatu in the original 1922, he doesn't even talk, and it's a silent movie, obviously. So he might talk, right, but you don't hear anything. And so anyway, he's more of like a monstrous, scary creature that kills people and sucks their blood, right? He's not gonna, sweep you off your feet and mesmerize you, but that also is a part of the lore throughout the years of Dracula. So it really all depends on which one you like. If you like the more monstrous version, then you're gonna like Last Voyage of Demeter. Um,
Yeah, I recently just real quick, I bought they had a sale on a Blu-ray, The Lost Boys, and then the on Blu-ray with the other two direct-to-video sequels. And I've watched the sequels, and I watched Lost Boys. Like, that's an interesting vampire. I mean, it's not too in your face, but it's more like teenage stuff from the 80s. And the new ones, it's a little bit more gorier, the direct-to-video sequels. So, I mean, I like that one with anything with vampire. Like, I like the Lost Boy movies.
yeah, that was fun too because that had kind of like a Goonies vibe to it too. So it was like Stranger Things, like a lot of the new stuff is influenced by all that stuff, and I think yeah, Lost Boys is a good one to go with as well. But there's a version for everyone out there. There's a version of Dracula out there for everyone. Um, anyway, moving on.
I think
For
Danny
the
liked the interview with a vampire a lot.
oh damn, a little too much maybe.
Yeah. Dan's like, oh yeah.
Well, do you guys like anime at all? Do you still watch like animation stuff?
I watch a little bit, and actually, what you're going to talk about, Junior is really excited to watch it, and he did tell me that the characters look like what he would imagine in real life. So he's
Yeah.
excited to watch it.
Yeah, dude, it was interesting for sure. So this show that I've been watching since I think I was like 19 or 20, a while back. I've been watching this for a while. It's one of the longest running animation shows I think around. This started back in '99. It's called One Piece, and so literally been going on for like almost 25 years. And they finally released a live action adaptation of it. Netflix put together this season of like 8 episodes, which covers like the first official season of the anime. And after watching this animation for, you know, 15 plus years, I've been watching this show. I caught up through all of it, and it's such a unique and just strange show with strange characters and mannerisms and the quirkiness, and they all got powers, different ones, and they fight with martial arts or weapons or guns or whatever. And it's in the pirate era, which I'm a big fan of pirates. I grew up liking Peter Pan. I grew up liking Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'm a pirate fan, and there's essentially a pirate world where there's a central world government. So there's like the New World Order stuff going on, but there's also rebels and they're considered pirates. And this is like back in like the 1500s where there's not much technology and stuff. Although there is some weird technology they do use, it's not like how it is here in our modern day era. And so it's really cool. It has so many different aspects of the show that I like. So they finally made it live action, and I heard, yeah, Junior's excited about it. Another one of my nephews, Joshua, he watched it as well. I've already seen the first season, and I gotta say, man, like I was really surprised by how well they put together the crew, the cast. I was skeptical of the main one. Um, I think it's an actor from Mexico City. They got to play Luffy, and Luffy is his character, is the main captain of one of these pirate crews in the show of One Piece. And he's claiming he's going to be the next pirate king. That's his goal, is to be the pirate king. And so he put together a crew to do this, right? And that's why they're on their voyage to go find the One Piece. That's the whole point of the show, to kind of sum it up. So when they casted Luffy, who's a very just over the top weird character, but like in a funny and an endearing way, I was really like skeptical. I'm like, how are they gonna get somebody to fill this like role? Like, he's just such a weird character. How are you gonna get that energy? Like he yells a lot and he like but does it in a excited way. That jovial energy is not easy to portray on screen. Most people don't do that. Most people are calmer, right? They're not this overly rambunctious energy. So anyway, this kid from Mexico City, I was surprised because he put an effort, and I gotta applaud that. Like it's a hard thing to bring this anime, Japanese anime especially, which is very different culturally to American comics, American animation. It's night and day, really. So for them to do it in a way, it's an American show. I was really surprised. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to do the stretching and a bunch of other stuff, but I saw the trailer with Junior and it actually looks pretty cool. Now, as far as the anime, I've tried on two or three different occasions to get into it because everybody keeps saying it's so great, and I don't know if it's like the language or what it is, but I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. I can't get into it. And I used to be an anime guy. It was more towards the horror adult anime instead of like this kind of goofy kid anime stuff. So maybe that's the disconnect. But yeah, man, it looks. I'm glad to see the excitement in Junior's face, and looks like an exciting moment for the anime fans of One Piece.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, and I could relate to that. I know what you mean. Like you want more of a mature like anime. And there's a couple I could recommend you. I think that you would like that's more on that horror side. There's Helsing, there's Death Note, maybe even Bleach. You might like Bleach, which is like a blend between the two. It's more of like an adult oriented supernatural um type of show with like superpowers. So you
Right.
might like some of those, but yeah, anyway, One Piece, I would probably give the like an honest rating. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. And the only thing I hold back is that the budget. There's obviously a limit to what they can do with their budget, and so I would like to see the newer seasons have more of a higher budget for maybe the wardrobe and a little bit more on the CG, although it was believable enough. Like I thought it was really well done for what it was. It's difficult to portray like all the stretchy stuff, like you were saying, some of the sword techniques, and it's like in the Japanese anime, they call out their moves. You know what I mean? When have you ever seen Cyclops or like Wolverine say like, shoulder slash or something? He never calls out his moves. He's just gonna slash you and you're gonna die. And that's like American comics and American animation. And in this one, they call out their moves. They're like, whatever, dynamite flash, whatever, like super punch or something, and they call it out. So when they did it in the show, they have to do it in like a funny way and like play it off like, oh, this is cool, like this is what we do. And one of the guys has to be like, what the fuck, why are you calling out these words and like these names? He's like, don't you know all the cool people do that? Like they're trying to play it off. So I was like, that's interesting. But yeah, that's what I did recently. Another thing I actually finally got around to doing, and it took me almost a year. I had the Steam Deck for about since it released, so over a year ago, I want to say at this point, or about. And initially, I got it with the intention of playing some of my maybe my easier lower end video games on Steam, and then as well as like a retro library that I've been putting together for like decades already at this point. And so I have at this point Super Nintendo, Genesis, N64, GameCube, PS1, 2. I'm trying to get PS3 working, but it's hard, and Game Boy Advance so far. But I've been loading all this stuff up on the Steam Deck, and it's running great. It looks great. It's fun to just pick up and play for 20, 30 minutes or so. You don't need to have your big TV on the PC drawing all this power from the grid. You just got a little Steam Deck, and that's it.
What are you mostly playing on it? Like 8-bit, 16-bit, or Game Boy, GameCube?
So it could do 3D and all that stuff if you wanted. It could do all that, obviously, and but mainly I've been focusing on just like a couple of the older 16-bit ones. So I've been playing like Super Metroid, um, Act Razor is one other one that I played. Some of the old like Mario Kart, Super Mario 64, stuff like that.
So the N64 stuff, it's doing really. It can handle all that smoothly because I got some stuff, and the N64 and like some of the PlayStation. It's sometimes there's like a lag or some goofy shit, and it's not as smooth, or they freeze a lot.
The frame rate so far for me has
Yeah,
been solid. It's been smooth. Looks good. And I have an upscaler for like the PS2 stuff, the GameCube stuff. Upscale. So the Steam Deck handles 720p because that's what the screen can display. But
right.
you can put it in a docking station and hook it up to your TV, and that'll be, I think, up to 4K, I believe. So you could even, upscale that. But I have a PC if I want to play 4K. Yeah, mainly I wanted it for the Steam Deck for the portability. But maybe one day I'll get the dock. I don't know.
Yeah, to me it's exciting playing some of the retro stuff. I also had the Vita set up that way. But yeah, the Vita was limited. When you got to like the DS stuff, it was kind of difficult. It would chug. The 64 stuff, it would chug. and even some of the like the PlayStation 2s and 3s stuff, it was definitely an issue on the Vita. So yeah, it's good to hear that a more powerful console can play a little more of the more recent retro generations.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm still gonna be loading stuff. Still getting around to playing a few other sports games as well. I've been playing the NBA Streets. That was fun. NBA Jam, Hang Time, all that. And then that Madden 2001. That was one of the first Madden games I ever played that I enjoyed really well. And I remember you got it on the PS2 back in 2001. So it's one of those games I'm gonna get back to. And speaking of the Bears and football and all that stuff, we have a bear story, and that's going to be leading us to the article of the week. All right, so we got an article here from NPR. It is called Hank the Tank. The bear behind 21 home invasions has been captured near Lake Tahoe. This is back in August 7th, 2023 by Emily Olson. And it's an interesting little fun, lighthearted article here about a bear that's been a little bit of on a rampage here, getting all this food from all these rich bougie people out in the Lake Tahoe area. It says here, authorities in the town of Safe Lake Tahoe, California, have been on the lookout for an exceptionally large animal since February 2022 after they reported that one single male bear had been the cause of 152 reports of conflict behavior, including 28 home break-ins. They referred to the animal as Hank the Tank. But it turns out they were actually wrong in the gender. They misgendered it. Not surprised. It's going on all the time now, apparently, the media says. And they tested the bear after they captured it, and it actually is a female, and it's officially called Bear 64F, and it actually had some cubs with it on this, like, I guess, journey to get all this different kinds of food. I don't know what they got, caviar in those homes. I don't know what it was going for, but it got a bunch of different homes, and it says the more homes that were vandalized in the ritzy waterfront community of Tahoe Keys, about 100 miles east of Sacramento, the more the public came to the defense of Hank the Tank, blaming the bear's behavior on unsecured garbage cans and habitat encroachment. So I guess people were throwing parties and not cleaning up, and then who knows? All these bears just came around and saying a free lunch, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. When you're out in like the more rural areas instead of being like in an urban environment, you definitely have to worry about animals. Out here by us, if you don't secure your garbage cans, raccoons are a big thing, coyotes. Just last year, we had a bison get loose from one of the farms, and dude, it took like 3 months for them to find it. They couldn't find it. This bison was camouflaged. I don't know what the problem was, but they couldn't find it. And this year, they had a male bull get loosed from one of the other
Yeah,
farms,
that's right. Yeah.
and it was rolling around like Gurney and a bunch of other these northern suburbs, and they just barely captured that like last week. So yeah, it's not unheard of animals that are captive getting loose, but when you got like black bears like this, that's their habitat. They're going to be there, and if you leave an opportunity for food, they're going to take it.
Yeah, and it is kind of, concerning too. You don't want to run into this, like a bear like this, and then have a little kid around, and that's it. It takes a couple seconds for this bear to just outdo anybody, man. Some of these bears weigh up to 275 pounds. It says for females, 500 for males. So I mean, it's no joke to have these bears around. It's got to be very safe.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where a bear wanders into Springfield and they tag it, and then people started bitching, why are there so many bears around here? So Quimby gets a bear patrol. He gets like B-52 bombers and shit, and then they charge a bear tax. And Homer's like, what the hell is this bear tax? It's $5. Let the bears pay for the bears tax. and all hell breaks loose after that. But that's what I imagine. He had like stealth bombers and like fucking SWAT teams just for the bears and shit. And I'm imagining this probably was gonna happen up in Lake Tahoe because that is a nice area, and yeah, a lot of it like the city, you don't really gotta worry about this stuff. But when you live in when you go out more rural areas, this is problems. Like here where I live now, the big problem is foxes and
And wild turkeys too, right?
wild turkeys and a lot of deer and like they run around here like they own this fucking place, but I straighten them out once in a while, but yeah, I mean, so if you got little dogs and stuff or cats, the foxes or the wolves will eat them, and it's you're starting to see it more and more, like especially in the Facebook group that we're part of for the community, people be posting them up a lot. So yeah, and I was gonna say like the bull that got wild this summer up north from here, and it took them a while to capture it. I was kind of shocked, like how fucking hard is it to find a bull, right? But it happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of wooded areas here, and then we're all just really speaking of land animals, but there's a lot of like big eagles. There's times I'm driving down the highway, and you just see an eagle swoop down into one of
Yeah.
the lakes and just pick out a fish. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of that out here, and it's all cool. I dig it. You just have to be mindful of where you live at.
Oh, for sure. And apparently, with these bears, they got the three cubs relocated, and they got I think the mama bear they're gonna get over to Colorado for like one of those, like what is it called? Like
Sanctuary.
yeah, there you go, like one of
Yeah,
those places.
because
Yeah.
the article did say usually when they have a lot of incidents like this, they put them down. But the uh, Hank the Tank here, or 64 or 46F, whatever, they got a pass because she has has cubs, so they moved them to Colorado and put them in like some wild sanctuary. So um, yeah, because usually the rule is that when it's this often they put them down, and I guess she got a pardon because she's a mama.
Yeah, no, and I can't blame the bears for being a bear. It's just trying to eat and survive. So good that they are relocating it. But
They could do that off my
yeah,
property, bro. Go survive somewhere else.
right. I was actually looking up Illinois, what kind of dangerous animals we have around here, because Illinois, for the most part, is pretty tame. But I was surprised to find out that we actually do have snakes, venomous ones in Illinois. But I think that's more southern. It's like the copperhead and
Hmm.
there's like another one. There's the eastern rattleback or something like that. It's surprising.
What I want to see here is the old going into crypto ology here, zoology is the big tomahawk, those big birds that are big as a 747 or some shit like that. Have you ever heard about those? The Native Americans used to like talk about them. Supposedly they were very popular here. It's like mid to southern Illinois.
I've seen a regular hawk.
No, I'm talking about like a big black tomahawk, like 8, 9 feet long.
I
Oh,
thought the
These
Mothman was something in downtown too.
The Mothman, that's
Yeah,
something different. It likes hanging out in the airport, which is kind of weird. Like
right.
you always see it around Chicago or by O'Hare, but yeah, I'll send you some stuff on that. That's another big one. Every once in a while, you get some weird report that people claim to be seeing them. But yeah, in Illinois, I mean, at one time there was bears here, but I think they got kicked, killed out, or pushed out, or something. So thank you for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network, and send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Check out our webpage, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. That's where our links to all the platforms, all our older episodes are on. Um, Subscribe, like, comment. That helps us out immensely. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube. I don't know. Are we on Podcast Addict? I think we are.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I heard today. Um, but whatever how you listen to us, like and subscribe. And for Freeform Radio, we got Enlightened Danny over here.
Yes, sir, man. Getting ready. Get some wings in the oven, man. Start heating them up. Get this Bears game rolling.
And then we got Noel with his animal loving butt.
I'm actually gonna play some animal games on that Steam Deck right now.
Big Buck Hunter or something. Gonna start mowing them down.
Play a little Turok maybe,
There
a
you
little
go.
dinosaur hunting.
There you go. That's a good one. I haven't played that in forever. But this is Andy. It's all good, Andy. We want to thank y'all for listening. Remember to share with your friends, and we'll catch y'all next time.
That was cool, Dad.